Now, Gigi, so obviously you're successful now. You own your niche. But
Dominated, brother.
Dominated. You control
complete
it.
Domination, man. Complete domination. That's why I'm in your niche now. That's why I'm going into Red Pill's niche. I'm like a fucking octopus. I got my tentacles everywhere, man.
8 tendrils, right?
Yes, sir.
But it wasn't always like this, man. Like, what was the struggle times? What's like your story, man? Or like, how did you get from like this to like where you were in the past and stuff?
Well, my dad immigrated from the Soviet Union.
Okay.
And he didn't leave me with much money, but he left me in America with the opportunity to be a good capitalist and to actually provide for my kids in a way that he couldn't because it wasn't available to him. So I love my dad for, getting away from me from the fucking communists, man.
What part of the Soviet Union?
He was from Moscow, and my dad, my mom was from Kyiv. So again, now they're fighting wars against each other. American influence is crazy, but it is what it is, man. But how did it all started? I was pretty much like below middle class, not necessarily poverty, but in the middle. So where like I didn't go to sleep hungry or anything like that. But we didn't have much money and stuff. Let's see. Let's start off. Usually, 98. I heard a loud bang on the door.
Right.
I think it's my boy, man. I'm like, hey, motherfucker, why are you knocking on my door? And, I opened the door. It was actually the police.
Oh, shit.
And dude said something smart, and I hit him. I hit him real fucking hard. Dude went down. The problem was there was about a couple other cops right there.
Yeah,
and they kind of whooped my ass. You see my hand. They did.
Oh, wow.
So you don't have to be a black man to get your ass whooped by the police. Remember that, guys. So,
on camera.
Yes, sir. So they take me down to the station.
Okay.
And this is 90, 98, somewhere around there.
All right.
And I start talking mad shit to the cop in the back seat. I'm like, motherfucker, this was the hood. I'd fucking whip your ass. I was saying all sorts of shit back then. And he stopped the car, and he literally opened the door, and he maced my ass.
Whoa.
Okay. So he did one mistake, though. He didn't close the door properly. So I'm driving. They're driving me down to the station. I'm like handcuffed right in the back of a police car.
Yeah.
And I'm leaning on the door. Car's going 75 miles per hour. I fall out.
You followed or you rolled out?
No, I fall out.
Oh, you didn't try.
Oh, so you're leaning against the
I
door.
thought you were trying to do that.
No, the door popped open. I'm falling out. It's the cop's going about 75 miles per hour.
Jesus.
And it's middle of the night. I have no idea how I have facial injuries or scars. This is pretty much the only scar because think about it. Like I'm handcuffed, and this is the first thing that hits.
Bam. Yeah.
So I got scars on my feet and everything from that shit. But basically, they throw me in prison for about 9 months.
Wow.
And again, they almost killed me, and they still threw me in prison.
Jesus.
It's fucking nuts, okay? But
and what state?
Again, Black Lives Matter, okay? Ohio. That's what matters. Ohio. So a couple years go by, I don't know, selling weed or something like that. Young kid shit. And this is when I get out.
This is what age? This is what age more or less?
21, 22,
okay.
Some shit like that. And
so you're adult, like, so in terms of like your teenage years are kind of early 90s, and your actual kind of like 18 plus years, your actual where you're cognizant you're an adult is the early 2000s.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, got it. Just to get a reference for everybody.
So around 2000, and I had a good as soon as I left prison, I figured out how to be a good criminal.
Right.
Because that's what happens. You go in prison, you learn how to be a good criminal. Yeah. They never caught me again.
Right.
Like, they never caught me for anything again. And they tried, and I was doing all sorts of stuff. Like for instance, I lived in an apartment complex, and I was selling weed in the apartment complex. The only reason it was illegal back then was because the government couldn't tax it. So now they could tax it, so now it's legal. So I could go to the store, but they used to put me in jail for this crap. So I was selling marijuana in the conservative state, somewhat Bible Belt to a point. And the cops tried to get me, but I was slick about it. I knew the owner of the apartment complex. I would basically find him people to come in there. So he's cool with what I'm doing. And all the people back then, this is pretty much before internet. You have that dial-up, internet sound.
So you were good for business, man.
So I was doing the business in the very beginning, and I hooked up everyone's cable TV in the apartment complex. Everyone's cable TV I hooked up for free of charge. They all knew it was me.
Nice.
So at this point, the cops on premises, yo, Gary, the cops are here. So I had that covered for a long time. And then 9/11 happened.
Right.
At that point, I'm looking at it, I'm waking up, still living in my parents' house, young kid. And I think I'm watching Die Hard. Then I realize it's, a real thing. I go outside, smoke a blunt, for all the people. And then I hear some stuff like, oh, Flight 11 hit the World Trade Center. And I'm like, what? The Twin Towers look like an 11. Wait a second. Today's the 11th. I'm like, wait, isn't it interesting that the code for emergency is 9/11 in America? Yep. At that point, I was like, And then I remembered the Great War. World War I ended at 11/11 at exactly 11 o'clock. Now I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but someone's doing something.
Yep.
Right. Then here's my journey at that point. This is late 2021. By early 2022, I get in contact with the so-called top numerologists in the world, who are basically all old hags who've been, divorced like fucking 3 times. And I remember asking this one broad, I'm like, Allison, 8's the number of money, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, why do you price your products not in 8s? Why are you pricing your products for 25 and 50? Why don't you do like 80 or 89? 8 plus 9 is 17, 1 is 8. And all of a sudden I get this pause for about 45 seconds. And then the dumb bitch is like, oh, I never thought about that. You've been at this for 40 years and you never thought about that. At that point, I'm like, okay, I'm done with you frauds. I threw away all the books. I threw away everything because I knew numerology is real, but I knew these people didn't have it. Because if you're good at numerology, why are you divorced 3 times? Okay, if you're good at numerology, why the fuck are you broke? Okay, because that's the question I had when I was young.
Right.
Yo, Gary, you're so good at reading people. Why the fuck are you broke? And guess what? It was a valid question. It was a valid question. So, I remember the first time I went up to Mark Cuban. I'm like, you know all this about numerology? Okay, how come you don't have money? Valid question. Now when I talk to him, it's a little bit different. Right. So when it comes down to it, that journey started in 2002 when I started doing things myself. Right. And when I started doing things myself, I started basically asking people birthdays. I see, what's your birthday? What's your birthday? What's your birthday? I started to reverse engineer it. And because I'm reading so many people, I'm picking stuff up that no one else even knows to look for. I'm like, oh, 9s are good at this. They're not humanitarians like the book says. I'm like, wait a second. If 9s are humanitarians, why is Joseph Stalin putting 50 million people in the ground? Right. Doesn't make sense. I start looking all these things. 7's a lucky number. Is it? Why is 7 so lucky? Why is the casino telling you to use it? So obviously it's not so lucky, is it? So
we're in Vegas, bro. You gotta chill with that shit.
Fuck them too. When it comes down to it,
I start money on a daily basis.
At all these casinos, and I look at all these other things in the world. I'm like, wait a second, these people are hiding stuff. Right. And then I used to go to cemeteries at night, not doing any voodoo shit or anything like that. Get your heads out your asses. I'm just basically looking at people's birthdays, seeing when they were born, seeing when they died, and seeing if I can reverse engineer what happened. And I keep doing this for years. Right. And obviously, I'm getting really, really good at this. At this point, it's 2004. Right. And I'm like, you know what, man? It's time to start opening my mouth a little bit.
So